Howdy, fam. Lean in close and hold on to your hairnets because we're about to get real raw and unapologetic. Because we ain't striking matches tonight. Nope, we're going to be lighting the blowtorches. This is As I See It, episode number 2. And tonight, baby, we are torching the record labels. Yeah, you know, those shiny dinosaurs still stomping around like they matter. But here's the truth. We used to need them. But now, they're just punks in suits clinging onto a world that's already gone up in flames. We'll be right back.
You're hooked up to America's Bloodline, 121.4.
So what are recording labels, really? Forget the smoke and mirrors, strip them down, and they're just middlemen. They take an artist, they sign them, front the cash, record the music, press it to vinyl, or CDs, streams now, and then they make sure they get it out to the public. Sounds nice, right? Yeah, well, wrong. Because while you're out there bleeding your heart into your song, they're making sure they own it. Label's job was to never make you rich. It was to make them rich off your sweat. You don't sign a dream, baby. You sign a debt. Before we go too much further in it, let's spin that clock way back to the late 1800s. The phonograph gets invented. Music can now finally be captured. However, it can also be owned, which means it can be sold, which means there's money involved, and boom, there it is. That's the business sharks smell blood in the water, and they start swarming. Fast forward to the 1920s and 30s, Columbia, RCA, and Decca, the big boys, the big dogs, yeah, they controlled everything. And then came World War II. Radio blew up, vinyls boomed, and then by the 50s, rock and roll was born. Elvis, Chuck Berry, Little Richard. However, all of them had to go through a label. See, fam, there was no YouTube, no Spotify, no TikTok, Instagram. If you weren't signed, you weren't heard, period. The label was the only bridge between your garage band and a big stage. And where were they? Well, hey, they were wherever money flowed. New York, Tin Pan Alley, baby. Chicago, Blues Central, London, rock royalty. Detroit had Motown, Memphis had Sun Records, and Hollywood had Capitol. Wherever the music caught fire, labels would swoop in like vultures, set up shop, and claim the sound. See, and they never created any of the magic. However, they just bottled it, sold it, and cashed the checks. And now I want to try to be fair, okay? Back then, we did need them. And here's why. Recording technology. Well, studios were a fortress of recording gear and engineers. And they were more expensive than your house. No artist could afford that on their own, so the labels footed the bill. Distribution. Well, you can't press 1 million records in your own basement. So you could go to a press plant, but, well, the labels owned them, along with the warehouses and the trucks that delivered the music. So what about promotion? Well, radio was king back then. And the owners and managers of the stations, they wouldn't take your call. But with a little white envelope to grease the wheels, they would take a label's call. And next thing you know, DJs are being told what to play. It's all about myth making because labels controlled the images. Elvis was not just Elvis. He was a brand, along with Sinatra, the Beatles, the Supremes. Labels polished them, packaged them, and sold them to the world. So yeah, back then, labels were necessary. They were the gatekeepers, the machine that turned a small-town singer into a household name. But here's where the story flips. Every reason why an artist needs a label is gone. Recording. You can record anything you want on your laptop. And hell, AI can master your tracks better than half the engineers in LA. Distribution. Take that same said laptop, 2 clicks on DiscoKid, TuneCore, and Bandcamp, and you are worldwide. And promotions? Well, forget station owners and managers. Today, you've got TikTok, Instagram, Discord, YouTube, Rig Radio. Hey, you can't blame me for trying. Point is that you could build a fan base yourself. Fans find you, not some suit who tells them what to listen to. And contracts, well, they're the same old trap. You sign, they own your masters. You sign, and you own the debt. Labels today are like a guy selling a bottle of water who's standing in a thunderstorm. You don't need it. However, he's going to try to convince you that you're thirsty. Why do artists still sign their souls away? Easy. Fear. That's right. Fear of being invisible. Fear that without a label, nobody will hear them. And labels feed that fear. They whisper, "We'll make you a star." But the ugly truth is that most artists that sign, they never get promoted. They get shelved, forgotten, and used up. And the few that do blow up, well, they carry the label's brand, not their own freedom. Labels today are like carnival barkers, hollering promises like, "Step right up, folks, fortune and fame." But when you peek behind the curtain, just smoke and mirrors and contracts that'll chain you down. And let's not forget, these people aren't geniuses. I mean, does anybody remember Decca turning down a band because they didn't think they were going to make it and didn't see the vision, and that band turned out to be the Beatles? What about Metallica and Napster? Labels fighting digital instead of embracing it and losing. Man, they're still pissed about that. Artists like Taylor Swift having to record all her own albums just to receive back the ownership of her own masters. Proof that labels are still steal. And now it comes down to this. Labels are afraid of losing control. Labels want to keep it the way it is because they're the only ones that benefit. But labels can't promise you what you can do on your own. And that's the key. Get a hit music, put it on YouTube, bam! 1 million people have seen it in 2 days. Labels can't do that. And so now they're coming after reaction channels, content creators, people getting demonetized for showing love to the music that the labels should be grateful for. Content creators like a guy I truly admire, who's done more for this music industry in the last 10 years than labels could ever do. And that's Rick Beato, a teacher, a producer. He knows the insides and outs of music. This man has gone one-on-one with the industry itself, sits down and educates people, gets people to understand where music came from and where music's going. One-on-one interviews that I could only dream of being in the same room. Interviews with legends like Andy Wallace, who single-handedly shaped the sounds of generations with bands like Nirvana, Rage for the Cage, Linkin Park, and Coldplay. One-on-one interviews with Matt Pinfield, arguably the very voice of MTV itself. Just 5 hours ago, he had a one-on-one interview, a video he just released with a one-on-one video with Clint Johns. Clint Johns, who worked on recording the very songs that shaped music as it is today, with bands like the Beatles, the Stones, Led Zeppelin, the Who, Eagles. And yet, labels see him as a threat. And they put strikes on him. One strike, a 5-second. Fam, these aren't the protectors of music. They're punks guarding a vault they didn't build and slapping hands away from the very songs that keep them relevant. So there's the truth, baby. Once upon a time, labels were kings. Today, they're just suits and shiny shoes swinging copyright strikes like clubs while the world passes them by. So there it is. Once upon a time, labels were kings. And without them, the music went nowhere. Today, they're just suits and shiny shoes selling an illusion while the real fire burns online. As I see it, the future doesn't belong to labels. It belongs to you, the indie artist, the AI artist, the garage band, the dreamer with a laptop and a vision. And that's what they fear. They fear because record labels are no longer the fire. They're the ashes, and baby, the flames are in our hands. I'm Deadman Strolling, and this is Rig Radio. And now don't let some record exec claim this video as his property. Hit that sub button before they try. Smash it, like, drop a comment, and keep the revolution rolling. This has been As I See It. Stay loud, stay free, and never sell your soul for a shiny pen and a contract.